Gotcha.
All right, guys, it's running, so I gotta go to another quick meeting.
And when will this air?
I put it on today.
Okay, good.
I got yesterday's stuff on this morning.
And write anything that I don't write.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I'll be back in just a little bit.
Okay. We're gonna try to get through this though, because we're gonna go to Mount Carmel to do that. Okay, let's bring the meeting to order. 9:01. Roll call.
Tom, here.
Camilla here.
Blackie here.
Joey here.
Sign here. Okay, miscellaneous items of discussion, revision of scoring sheet. Nancy and I still haven't gotten together, it's my fault. I'm gonna go see her today.
Well, if I'm available.
Are you available, Nancy?
Let's set up an appointment.
Okay, when would be good, Nancy?
Let's check it out and see. I just
Okay.
I
Okay.
never know how busy I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
be.
know. Review of RFP for trolley video. So a couple things, I tried to bring up the trolley video that was on here. I could only bring up one on my screen. Has anybody been able to bring up all of them?
No.
Okay, so I'll show you the one that I can bring up, and you guys, I don't know if you wanna come over here really quickly, cause I'm not. But the reason why I don't like it, we don't have the coal mining museum and we don't have the,
That's why we just need to go.
This-
through, you know.
yeah,
But this is also a very old one.
Okay.
Yeah, we need new.
We're gonna do it new and beautiful.
New, yeah, we need new,
okay.
They haven't been down to take any new pictures.
Yeah,
No.
that's, we have that.
and you just can't put it, we're done with the old
And
pictures.
And then here, if you, I guess, well, they're all kind of old. I thought these were the new ones, so the KRDO just did.
Yeah, and
So we need to.
the pictures that we got from there, the pictures that I picked from there is all we had.
I don't
This
even
is-
have internet service, so.
You know, this is from what she has on her computer down there.
And this is kind of bad because the Discover slogan's in the first part of it, which is the old one, and then they added the Visit Trinidad.
Yeah, see,
on
and
there.
I think they all just need to be visited.
Okay, so is that our
Well,
consensus?
this goes to the issue that we have a contract with them and we're not getting what we
I
contracted
agree.
for. So I think we need to revisit that issue with Connie.
Okay.
Yeah, because she's
This-
pulling up, yeah.
This goes back to Studio 6, and people just seem to think that they don't need to abide by the contract.
Right. Okay, so we need to revisit and the videos are not clear.
I think the one thing that we need to do is we need to get some pictures on this computer, so when we do go to pick pictures, we have a huge variety of pictures to pick from. And another thing that I think when we get like something from KRDO or something from whoever we go on from now forward, I think it needs to be stamped as the date we got it, and then a completion date so that we can all see it and all agree upon it. That the pictures, that we all agree on the pictures and everything that, but I think that's the way we do, because there was one thing that I didn't like on this last set of pictures, and Marty told me it was too late, KRDO was already doing it.
Well,
You know.
KRDO should be sending us
That's right.
drafts,
Mhm.
proofs.
Right.
And
And I think Nancy, I think we should be able to see them in a
Yeah.
work session, or even before we have
Well, what-
on a voting meeting.
Right, and it means that they're going to have to pay more attention, or, you know, I don't know if we have the capability in our contracts to break our contract, but after listening
Well,
to the Chronicle News,
Work performance.
Yeah.
I
So,
don't
you
know if that's in our contract
And,
or not.
and I think, like we didn't have a closing date on when all that was gonna be done, and I think we need that. That way we're all in consensus, all of us are all in consensus of, we like it, the pictures are great, and they can move forward with it.
Okay. So we'll do that. Update on the trolley route.
I don't even have a connection here.
Update on the trolley route. I don't know, we've tried the trolley route a few different ways. I'm not really sure what the update is.
She really liked, I talked to Shelley yesterday, and she told me she really likes going up Colorado now, and in that she added that to the route. And and she talks about that Bowman, where the Bowman Dairy originally started from. And
Well,
to-
and I think that for the drivers themselves, I think it's a rejuvenation to not do the same thing every single
Yeah.
time,
Mhm.
you know. Some of the drivers used to do one route differently on,
We have so many
you only
options.
have a little bit more power on my side too.
Okay, I don't. I
And
don't
she,
even
she
have
does
that.
like going around the park now, the way we changed it, to going up to Topeka,
Yeah.
going down Topeka and then down
Oh,
to
yeah.
Cedar, and then in front of Kansas.
Okay,
And then she's able to talk about, she's able to talk about the bandstand, she's able to talk about that monument that's there for the Santa Fe Trail, that's marking the Santa Fe Trail. And then come around and talking about Kit Carson and then doing that house.
okay,
That was a Sears kid.
I'm putting that in the notes.
So she said she likes that.
So she's just been doing it, so that's
Mhm.
really nice, you don't have
Yeah.
to, my battery's gonna die here. Discussion, Chronicle News Media Opportunities, I was not here when they gave that, but I keep hearing it was wonderful.
It was.
I watched a little bit, but they were on this TV and you
Yeah.
couldn't see anything.
Oh.
So, that was really unfortunate, you know.
Would you guys like him to come back?
Yeah, I would love them to come back.
You gotta hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
I think it was a better presentation than
Well, they're local
radio.
and they're multifaceted media.
And I'm all about local.
I'm all about local
Yeah.
too, because at least we could, one-on-one, if,
Did you like it, Joey?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was. they could
you
do a
know,
lot
we
of
could
different
run down
things
and
for
talk
us.
to them. At KRDO, we just can't.
I think you'll be really impressed with the presentation that they gave us.
Okay.
Well, they will, build a whole program for us. I don't know if those are the correct words or not, but they could be full service for us because of their links with Comcast that gives them TV, exposure. And it seemed to me, from what I remember, Joey and Tom, their rates seem to be
A little less.
a little less.
Mhm.
And they've done a lot of advertising and marketing. Kirk Loudon, who lived in Galveston, did a lot of marketing.
I did know that.
And Rich Hoffman, will, if we can get, as a tourism board, up to
I
the
know,
lodge at
simple,
Fisher's
sure.
Peak, he'll do a drone for us,
The
a
drone
drone
of any-
video.
drone of anything?
For us.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Can I have some of your electricity?
Oh.
Cause you can't bring up internet, I can, but I'm good now.
I don't have an agenda.
Well, I just finally got
No,
up
I
mine.
can just push, I can push this over here.
Here. I don't even like these things. I've had them on urban renewal and they're worthless.
No, I need your plug, I don't have a plug. This is a different, they're all different computers, so this isn't my plug.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay,
Mm.
sorry.
Well, anyway, what I like about the Chronicle News presentation that they gave is we can get a huge portfolio of pictures from them.
Right,
Yeah,
they have them on.
I mean, we could get whatever we need from them, and then we have it,
Right,
you know.
and we can walk across the street and
Thompson's
say,
picture.
this isn't,
What's been-
this is what we're looking for, this isn't what we're
Power
looking for.
burner.
yeah, I don't have a power one. Okay. So
Take
what I
mine,
will,
Si.
what I will do, I'll just slide it over here. So, do you and I wanna get with them and see a presentation, or do you want them to return back here?
I think they would come back.
Okay, we'll ask them to come back.
Maybe we can ask them more questions now.
Okay, and you guys have seen it, that's a good idea. You
Where'd
guys
you
have
guys
seen it
get the water
once.
from?
It was here when I
Oh,
was
it's
here.
yours?
Get a coffee.
Okay, and I'm only speeding through this because that other event is going on today.
Well, we don't wanna be cheated, come on. What other,
Okay.
that's the problem, we
The
are always
rural
hurrying.
funders that are in town that are, yeah. Okay, so we will ask for, them to come back at next meeting. The discussion of funding for Colorado Welcome Center. Well, I think we have to appear in front of city council and say we can't oversee it if we don't have any extra money. We don't have $70,000 extra in our budget.
Well, I have a question regarding the outcome of, as I understood, there was, a memorandum of acceptance that the city manager hadn't signed yet, saying that, we were going to be released from state funding. That was, I think, at the last meeting. And, is Greg still trying to negotiate something with the state?
it's not really as that sounds. So what we've done with them for the last 2 years is to ordinarily use state logos at the Welcome Center. You have to have certain standards no matter if you get funded or not. So the memorandum of understanding, and we should all have a copy of that, but I did glance at it once when I saw it somewhere, and it was like, for you to continue operating, saying that you're working with the state of Colorado, you will maintain, you know, I don't remember if it was bathrooms or standards. It wasn't really about a negotiation of money. It was, if you just wanted to have the standards of state of Colorado and advertise it, then you need to have certain standards. It wasn't about money. I wrote Kathy Ritter saying, I really can't believe this is happening, and I gave a cry out, and she wrote the city back saying, thanks, Cy, for being a cheerleader. However, and I'll get a copy of that note, however, of all the Welcome Centers, the Welcome Center amount here was only for 22,000 people, and every Welcome Center in the state had a lot more than that. And so when they decided which one they were gonna cut, when they found out they got a cut, they took the low man on the totem pole. And if we were to replace that, of course this is the state, if you were to replace that, the Welcome Center by an exit again, like La Porta, because it's been out there, then we would consider funding again. But if we're funding so much money, we're gonna fund the ones that have 100,000 people come through versus the ones that have 22,000
Right.
come through.
I
So-
understand that, but what's important, Si, is that you get it, but we all get it.
Mhm.
Because we can't address these issues or think about these issues if we're blindsided. I don't, and I'm gonna be quite blunt here, I don't think it's right for that information to not be passed on.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think we're in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great that you get it, but we get it then
Yeah,
down
no,
the
you're
road.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You should have been all right. I did it with Kathy, not in representation from the board point of view. I did it with Kathy being on the leadership Colorado board,
And
but
I
you're
understand
absolutely
that.
right.
I
You're right.
understand that, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
seems,
this
but
way,
it seems to
this
me.
way we
Yeah.
all have an input.
Yeah. You're right.
It seems to me that, you know, I understand the integration that you have, into the city, especially with the city manager and the mayor, that you have information that, should be passed on to this board as it
Mhm.
relates to tourism.
Mhm.
I'm still, and as a side note, I'm still confused why Greg Sund is taking on RPM's visioning. And I guess I'd like an answer on that.
Here's the way.
But I'm not finished, Tom. I don't understand why, so many boards are treated as stepsisters when in fact, we have a budget, we receive revenue, but we don't have facts.
Mhm. So to answer that, I'll get you the notes, I'll just send it all out to you guys, the note for me sending it to Kathy and her responding and tagging Greg, because I didn't tag Greg in my original thing, it was just like, I was just asking her as someone that knew her. RPM, I'm not really sure if I wasn't involved in all that, all I know is that Greg said, and so I didn't see that, I don't have a copy of that.
Mhm.
Greg said that the city to ordinarily write grants for bikes, they need this, and so the city was gonna handle it.
But isn't it interesting that Tara Marshall guaranteed we were going to get $15,000 from the city, and when she couldn't get it, now all of a sudden, Greg has $15,000 plus took our $10,000, and now the city is the RPM, grant process.
So let's,
I don't care about RPM, but I get up to here with the backdoorisms.
So he said it was due to outdoor rec, and I never got a copy of any of that tonight, so.
Well, this is a new board, and I would like us, and I said this in the last meeting, I think our board needs to go to Denver to meet with those that be at the state tourism office, so they actually know there is a board of 5 people.
Oh, no, yeah, they do, but yes, no, that's, so we have the Governor's Tourism Conference coming up here in October, we should all go. That's
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah,
We should all go.
yeah,
This
we
one.
should all go.
It's in Denver
Yeah,
this year.
is it Denver yet?
Denver
Yeah.
Tech Center.
Well,
Which is easy, because sometimes they have it in weird places that
Yeah.
take 6 to 8 hours to get to.
I'm just saying that this morning I had a conflict and I thought, should I go? Can I figure out some of these other things? But then you come and you listen to things that you're getting secondhand, and it's frustrating. It's just frustrating. Either we're all gonna be in the know or we're not.
Well, here's the way I feel about this right now. Since we're having a discussion about the Colorado Welcome Center, Greg's son should be here.
Well,
Because
We need to
because
go to them.
he represents the city council,
And-
and so Phil Rico also. So we need to be a part of this.
Well, I wanna let you girls know how and guys, how I wrote that letter to Kathy, is that no one contacted me. Marty told me that she had heard we weren't getting funding. So I then just wrote Kathy directly and said, I'm hearing this from Marty, I don't know if this is true, can you tell me? Because I didn't wanna spread rumors that it was true or not, or even tell you guys until I found out it was true.
okay, so since this is probably in all likelihood going to happen,
Uh-huh,
who owns the building? The city of Trinidad?
yeah,
Okay, then we would become tenants, correct?
correct.
Okay, so then,
And our tenants currently, just to have it right in your head, because the state
Yeah.
hasn't funded it for a few years.
We funded the last fund.
Yeah.
okay, so,
And we're going to-
then
we're going
how
to-
does that affect then
We're
the
gonna be-
funding that we get from the city to maintain it, or is it all on us?
Well, see, the way they did it last year was they gave 50,000,
Mhm.
we gave 17, right?
Mhm.
So the city,
Might have
50,000
50,
came from the,
55, yeah.
50,000 came from the marijuana money.
Mhm.
So now that we're in the discussions for the Colorado Welcome Center for 2020 now,
Mhm.
the year 2020. So we already funded 2019 by
Mhm.
$17,000. We need to make the same recommendation that the city fund it for 50,000 and we'll put in the 17. We'll continue to go down the path that we are. That's the only path that we can go down until the state funds it or till the city decides to move it to La Porte.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that's
Does
the
the city,
proposal
has
that
the
I'm
city
making.
agreed, though, that they will continue to do that in
We need-
2021?
We
No.
need to go on with it.
No,
I've
It's a
actually-
yearly
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I've asked the city, I've asked the mayor to sit in and talk to us about what they're gonna do.
That's what we need to approach
But-
them on
but-
that marijuana.
But when
50.
Marty told me that, I thought it was really unfair that no one told us.
Mhm.
How did
about
she
it.
find out?
She said she was at a meeting for the state and she heard it there. And so it was hearsay, and so I didn't wanna jump on Kathy or tell you guys hearsay, cause I had never received anything. So as a friend to Kathy and as a thing, I wrote her and said, hey, Marty, you'll see the letter, hey, Marty told me she heard this, is this true? Cause we haven't heard anything.
Mhm.
And I don't wanna tell the board anything and get everybody upset for something that's not true, well,
How
somebody tell
important is a
me.
welcome center to the city of Trinidad?
Yeah,
Well, that's
exactly.
the question that we have to,
That's a good
right,
question.
that's a good question.
Yeah. And we need to ask Greg and the mayor, how important is welcome center to you? Because if it's not important,
Give it to us.
no, it's over.
It's over.
Why would we fund
Why-
$90,000 for 22,000 people coming in there?
Mhm.
That's a threat, and we don't wanna go there.
I think we
Well,
just, I think we just,
It's just a question.
I just think we make the recommendation that I just said,
Yeah.
that they continue the funding that they did in the past. And then if they say they're not gonna do it, then that's when we say,
How important is
then we
it?
should all look at the numbers and is it feasible for the city of Trinidad?
Is there anything on I-25 leading to the exits that even announce there's a welcome center?
Well,
That's part of the problem. How do people know that they can exit off either ramp to visit a welcome center?
yeah, I mean, and I don't know what
There's
the,
nothing, there's
Yeah,
no
I
signs.
don't-
I
think
do
there's
know
anything.
that the state, this is from years ago, when they did exit 23, 22, that they had planned that they were gonna have the welcome center there at one point.
Mhm.
And we're going back whenever they built that, 15 years ago.
You meant
or so.
18?
Yeah, 18, where they have the whole restroom.
The rest,
yeah.
the rest area.
At one point, 15 years ago, they talked about that the welcome center was gonna be there, and the city would get volunteers to be there, and that's the reason why they had the desk and all the places. And then,
And I
But
think
that's
that's,
only-
and I think that's not a good place for it.
yeah, no, I think it's a horrible
Because I
place for it,
think-
because you're not in
I think-
town.
I think you wanna bring people into your community, and a lot of those people are gonna be stopping after they left the community.
Okay, I'm gonna be the
So-
bad guy here,
No,
but I think, I don't know where the other welcome centers that they get 100,000 people, that might be Denver, Colorado, that might be Colorado
Well,
Springs.
is it
No.
Burlington, is it Grand Junction?
Is it some of the smaller cities, that's what I know. But you guys gotta realize too, any more people going to welcome centers might be a thing of the past because of our phones. Anything, they're Googling whatever they wanna do through their phone. They don't need your paper trail of a welcome center.
Correct.
Not that, it's not that important to us, but that's what we have to look for the future. That is very important, and that, those phones, the
Another
husband sitting driving, the wife Googling.
another thing too, look what the motels have to offer.
Right.
They have a whole rack in these motels of brochures.
And they're very informative
But-
of things too. People talk, verbally talking to people
but I
is a
would
thing.
know they banned them from all the Kansas nationwide. But, because they found that they just got trashed and people picked up flyers and put them down, and so no, they banned
Well,
them. It was
and it goes to, like, when we get updates, on, I think it was yesterday, we got what, 48 inquiries?
Mhm.
Yeah. When you compare just 48 inquiries to the amount of money we spend for postage, it's not a good return. And I'm not sure I would personally support mailing out packets anymore when people can go, we can communicate with them via email, that we have a website.
I think,
Well-
I think the chamber should do that.
Actually, that's what it used to do, that's what a lot of
I don't
places
think
have
they
done.
have the money.
Well, the way
But
that,
they should.
years ago, the tourism board, they would turn into the tourism board that they sent out 200 packs, or not at the time they would sell like 30 packs. And they would bill the tourism board like $100 for sending those out. And the tourism board supplied a 1-800 number that was paid for through the chamber for anybody that wanted to call and ask for information about events. Of course, that was prior to the internet being so
Right.
big. So now we've even more. I think those 48 packs that we said, I still think those packs are people that don't wanna do it on their phone, because they
Well,
ask for hard material.
And I've not spent hardly any time at the Welcome Center, but let's break this down demographically. What is the typical average age range of someone who stops?
I would say it's an older person.
Exactly, yeah, because most people,
Right, the young kids, they're gonna find it on their phone. like they
even
always
up to
do.
60 years old.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I
Yeah.
wanna do-
Because that's what they used to do, and they know they could use restrooms there. They know they could talk to people there, and that's that older demographic of us. Not necessarily me, but older people that they're used to going to those welcome centers. They're used to doing that. The younger group, you
Yeah.
don't.
Well, I'd
you're
say
moving-
technology, so that anybody,
Technology,
even
yeah.
if you're 70, if you're technology, you're using your phone.
Mhm.
If you're not, if you are of a religious sort of.
And there's a lot of elderly
or-
people that are linked.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right, that's what I
it's-
hate to
it's-
say,
It's
it is
amazing.
more, it is higher, but
You
there
go
are,
into
yeah.
these big motels and you see
Mhm.
80, 70, 80-year-old
Yeah.
people on these
Yeah,
boards.
I mean, my business partner, you know, Charlie's 80, and he would never walk into a welcome center, he would always use
Right,
his phone, cause he's
right,
technology.
Right,
Yeah.
it's all, it's a very small demographic, I think, that actually relies on the Welcome Center, whether it's bathroom or brochures or pamphlets or whatever. So the next question is, if the city doesn't want to continue funding it,
Mhm.
what will happen to the physical structure of the?
Oh, what I have heard in the background, this is hearsay, this is not any conversation that I've
Mhm.
had. This is, Phil and Greg talking randomly, in a meeting that I heard, that they would have, like, when they get economic development director, they would put them there. If chamber needed more funding, they would put them there instead of helping, giving them money so that where they're at, they would put groups together.
Mhm.
Marilyn Lusler said
Uh-huh.
that they talked about having her there before Space to Create was done.
Mhm.
So, but that's all hearsay. So
Mhm.
we, you know, I really
It
always
would-
hate passing on hearsay.
It would be best for Starbucks
Well, that's where I'm going. So if we keep it, and if the city says, yeah, you could have the $50,000, and we're gonna put in 17, do we make Marty half of that section a coffee place where people will go in and coffee?
Bring some revenue in.
Bring some revenue and bring some
Look.
Coley's or somebody's baked goods in to sell it with the coffee and do a little candy thing that everybody does.
You put a Starbucks there, you're gonna generate
And
so
the
much
Starbucks
traffic
is
on
never
that
gonna go
place.
there because
Yeah.
of proximity to
Yeah,
Subway.
because-
That's never gonna
yeah,
happen.
because we
But
don't
if
have
we
to
did
Starbucks.
something, maybe Dunkin' Donuts, Tom?
Yeah.
But if we
No,
did an
right.
old, if we advertise that we have a coffee bar or something like that, but that is putting a lot of pressure on them down there to create something like that.
So,
No.
but the
I think
whole
Jeff
way
can handle
people,
it.
the whole way people handle finding a community for any reason is different now. Even, I have to say, I think our website page is good and nice, but when I go to, let's say I'm gonna go to Aspen for the weekend, I don't go to the Aspen site, I write things to do in Aspen, and
That's right.
TripAdvisor comes up,
Yeah.
and that's what I look
And that
at.
TripAdvisor, and that's how you do it. That's exactly what. You don't go to the Welcome Center in Vail or Aspen or anything. You're doing that TripAdvisor. That's who's telling you everything.
I just ask on whatever site comes up, I don't specifically go to the Aspen City site and see then, I
Right.
just put in what to do.
Oh, I
So-
agree with you.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this Colorado Welcome Center till all parties are involved,
Okay.
that are,
Well, is this a
Better make
work
this
session
happen.
or a regular?
It's a work session.
So we just
Yeah,
move
I'm
it
gonna
to-
say table it and ask
Greg's son,
Greg and
Phil.
Phil to be here for this conversation.
Yep.
Because I hate hearsay. Okay, Out Front Media billboard,
We tabled this the last time.
we tabled it the last time.
The last meeting.
Except for the I-25, I don't think anything on Highway 64, 67, whatever that is worth it for us to continue those contracts.
This Outfront Media, wasn't this the one that's on I-25?
Is that the one
I
that's
think
right by?
this is the one that's, now, is this the big one that says Trinidad?
It's, we don't have a big sign.
It
We
does-
only have small
Whose
signs.
sign is that has Trinidad on it?
It's our sign, it's a small sign though, it's not a big sign, it's a half board sign. I mean, it's a whole board, but it's
No.
only half the size of a big board. And it is
No.
our sign,
Yeah, so I think we need to keep that one.
yeah, and,
But, maybe we should put the trolley and the Welcome Center on
we
that.
already asked them now, if Marty was here, we already asked them about a month ago, I believe, I'll check on that, to get us some artwork on that. With the old trolley, and I said that the old trolley used to be on there.
Mhm.
So
Why
they-
can't we put the Welcome Center on there with the trolley, since they're both together?
The board is smaller than it seems, that's the only reason why it says only Trinidad on it now, because it doesn't, it loses stuff, but it's
Why-
not a
why-
bad idea
why-
for
You
this.
know, that's
Why-
not a
why-
bad idea.
why don't we-
Trinidad Welcome Center.
Why don't
Center
we,
is
here.
there.
why don't we
Yeah.
take a picture with the
Okay.
trolley in front of the Welcome Center?
Well, that's too much. I would just do
It's
the Welcome
smaller
Center and
than
put, Trinidad Welcome Center exit here, because it's the next exit.
Mhm.
And maybe
Yeah.
we will get people to go to
Exit
the well.
13,
Yeah, maybe we'll get people to do that,
Let's do that.
the good, hit the,
okay.
Do you
Welcome
think
Center.
the state will withhold their final decision for a year if we make some of
This
these
is their,
adjustments?
this is their decision for 2020.
They said have they actually said no mas?
For 2020.
Yeah, and
There-
nobody told us that until Marty told me that, and I wrote Kathy saying, is this possibly true? How could this be? How could everybody else know except for us?
and how important is, did I ask the question about the city, but how important is Welcome Center to the state of Colorado? Because we're in the southern
Mhm.
tier,
We're the,
and we're New Mexico, Colorado. How's important it to them, or
It
is it
seems
not
like it's
important?
important, but, you
It's
can't tell
important.
because it's a state funding, and you don't know where state funding is gonna get
Cut.
cut.
Well, New Mexico has cut a lot of their welcome centers, a lot of them. I think the state believes the same way that our discussion is going, that people don't necessarily stop anymore. they use their phones, or they have their trips pre-planned. I think that's really what is behind all this.
We have
Yeah.
more Save,
I
more
don't,
Save travelers.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
know what they're
so have
doing.
we gotten any money from the state on this? building?
no,
In how many years?
3.
Well, that's the
This
handwriting
is the
on the wall.
this is the 3rd year.
Yeah.
So why are we, I mean, so my thing is, why wouldn't we make it more about Trinidad in that building than all these other?
We
Yeah.
have one little space
So-
in there, we have one
Yeah.
wall.
So
I-
we should be putting the majority of our stuff in there, you know,
I
supporting
personally
Trinidad.
believe, I would like it to be all Trinidad,
Yeah.
all.
If we're funding it, then put a little bit of Colorado, you know, I mean, not that, but when I was in there, what, a month ago, it was like all Colorado. Like, we
Yeah,
were
I-
basically
yeah,
a
I
welcome
agree.
center for Colorado,
Well,
not
I think we were
Trinidad.
still trying to work on getting Colorado back to us, and we were
Right, see,
doing by
and
their
that-
rules and regulations.
And that
because
decision,
of the-
decision was gonna be made in June, as to whether if they were gonna.
Right, and so we try to make it as clear as
It's-
Colorado as possible.
So we should be putting more stuff in there, if Trinidad's funding it, we should be putting more stuff supporting Trinidad, if we're paying the bill on it.
Well, when does the relationship come to an end?
Yeah.
Is it by a document?
Um,
Is it,
Well-
at what point then do we meet with the mayor and city manager
That's
to
it.
determine the future?
I'm gonna send you guys this letter, but I'll read it to you live here.
That's okay,
No,
just-
I want you guys to know, just as, good morning, Kathy. Thanks for what you're doing to make this state the best the tourism can be. I was told through Marty, who runs our local welcome center, that Trinidad's welcome center will not be funded. This year, the tourism board started overseeing the operation of the welcome center at a cost of around $60,000 plus. As the first welcome center in the state of Colorado on the southern border, capturing all the Texas traffic, is there anything we can do about it? Is this true? We are hoping the pain of this expense would subside with the annual funding. If it is not true, sorry, and thanks again. But I'm just trying to make our southern border the best it can be and maybe overreacting. If it is true, can you make any suggestions that I may do to help secure funding? Would writing the governor on our plight help? That's what I wrote her, because I didn't know. And she wrote back, "Hi, Side. I truly understand and appreciate your advocacy for Trinidad. As I told Greg Sund a few weeks ago, I wish I could share a different answer with you. Unfortunately, as I'm sure you're aware, our Welcome Center funding has increased by only $16,000 since it was established in the early 2000s. We had hoped to secure additional funding for Welcome Centers in the upcoming fiscal year, but both attempts failed." And when she writes me back, she tags Greg, because on my letter to her, it's just like, hey, what's going on? On top of this, our overall CTO budget will be taking a hit of $200,000 to $300,000 due to increased costs that are beyond our control. Thus, once again, we're facing a fiscal year with reduced ability to carry out our mission. All that said, one of our top goals for fiscal year 21, the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and running through June 30th, 2021, is to secure enhanced funding for the Colorado Welcome Centers to modernize them and position them to attract even more travelers. As we know, our Welcome Centers have an impressive track record of inspiring visitors to do more, thus spend more, and want to come back. It is possible that fiscal year 21 budget request, which is due to the governor's budgeteers on July 1st, just a few weeks from now, could be structured to support some restored funding for Trinidad. However, please be aware that Trinidad's visitation last year was the lowest of all 10 welcome centers, just 21,568. Tara Marshall told me a while back that Trinidad was considering building a brand new welcome center and sitting it in a far more advantageous location, which no doubt would improve visitation. A commitment to improve the Welcome Center's ability to attract and influence visitors could be a strong factor in restoration of some funding support. Copying our Director of Visitor Services, Taryn Mulch, into this conversation. Let me know if you'd like to discuss further. And then, because Greg was copied on that, Greg writes, "Kathy, I truly believe our low visitation numbers is because when I-25 was reconstructed through Trinidad, CDOT decided to eliminate the exit on which this Welcome Center was located. Hence, now visitors here have to look for a welcome center, and many of them do not find it. This is a real dilemma for us. According to Tara Marshall, when the welcome center lost its I-25 exit, visitation dropped by about 2/3. It has never recovered. We have a welcome center that is nearly hidden from the traveling public. That is why we are having discussion about moving it to La Porta development, which is just off Commercial Street and exit 14. We still have a dilemma with exit 14 from the north because it dumps out into a 5-point intersection that is very confusing, and according to CDOT, not their responsibility. They say the intersection, which could benefit from a roundabout, is 100% city responsibility, even though exit 14 dumps directly into that exit. And Kathy writes back, I agree with you 100%, Greg. That's clearly the problem. I hope Trinidad can find a way to site that welcome center in a far more advantageous place. Is there a planning timeline for making that happen? And I'm just watching this. And he writes, there was a groundbreaking ceremony, I can't really read this. There was a groundbreaking ceremony at the Hilton Garden Inn on Friday, May 3rd. I'm hoping the construction of the underground infrastructure in the street through the property will begin soon. These are key to the eventual sitting of the Welcome Center there. My biggest concern is we own the current building, but will not own the new location if there is one. I do not know yet if the city would be expected to pay a lease for the La Porta location, which would increase operational costs. In addition, we would need to determine what to do with the current building. And,
Well,
Is there a northbound exit onto La Puerta's proposed site?
Yeah.
Try,
yep, it's
if you-
Commercial Street exit. It's
going
exit
northbound.
14, yeah, it's exit 14.
Going northbound.
It's exit 14. And then
You get-
Kathy
you
just
get-
writes.
You get on the exit right here on Main Street.
If you're going north
Yeah,
on
then you're gonna get right
I-25,
You
off.
get off at 14.
Then you'll get
Because
right
I take
off.
it on the way home. 14 dumps you right into
right on,
Wellington.
yeah.
Right on.
And then Kathy Ritter writes back, good to know there is progress.
Right in front of the Amtrak,
right,
the exit is.
right,
So our question would be to the city how important it is.
yeah.
Well, because there's a lot of, I mean, if we have to, if we're gonna have to lease the building down there, the budget's gonna be bigger,
Well, or possibly,
you know?
some type of granting us the use of it, before I lose my train of thought. And then we in turn, possibly sublet space for coffee, donuts, maybe other office facilities. I think if we're going to run it, maintain it, then we need to sit down and figure out a plan. Can we make it work? We need a business plan.
I was forwarding this to all of you, but I have 2 email addresses.
Oh.
Is it Outlook or Hotmail? I forget.
No, Outlook.
Send it to you.
I mean, I think we need to set it where it's being seen. I think the city of Trinidad's kind of dropped the ball as far as getting people to the building. There's no signage, there's
Exactly.
nothing exposing them to it.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't take, probably no signage, right by Sonic, sometimes saying,
Yeah, we
call it
need
a
some-
welcome center.
some-
Put a big flag,
But
call it a
I'm
welcome
wondering
center,
if
welcome or
maybe
something.
I might
Just so you can see the building.
I might reconsider the value of a billboard if it advertised the Welcome Center exit.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to think where it's coming northbound on I-25, isn't that the one that says the way out west or something like that?
It just says Trinidad.
Okay,
It just says
so what if
Trinidad.
we kept that billboard and modified the wording on it?
Well, that's what we're saying.
But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, rather than it just saying Trinidad. Direct,
Welcome center.
direct, okay, so that would maybe take care of that exit, but what about, is there anything, coming southbound? Would it behoove us to put a similar billboard nearing, a southbound exit?
There's only one billboard
Southbound,
southbound.
really?
Because Colorado is so
Other
expensive
than
and
the
their
ones
rules are
that are
really
right
bad.
before, other than the ones that are right before exit 14.
Uh-huh.
There's only one, and that's the one out there where the old Stuckey's used to be.
Well,
There's
but what
one
we
billboard
always
there.
do is Colorado's, the charge of billboards in Colorado, and you have to have the billboards so far off the highway that it's.
But if we could get on the one that's right in front of where the Hilton's gonna go, those that are right along there, right before you get off on exit 15, those billboards there, because they are on both sides.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I never thought about the highway redo as the problem.
Well, you know, then they're gonna have to put a roundabout.
But that's what I've always thought that would be good there, is right there, have a roundabout, and then when you're coming in and you're doing the roundabout southbound coming into there, and you have to do a roundabout, in the center of the roundabout, a thing that says City of Trinidad, you know, and a sign in the center of the roundabout pointing you down Commercial Street.
We don't really have any monuments directing or calling attention to drivers.
From
We're
what
just
I
kind of-
understand, that roundabout is not gonna happen. The state said
Well,
it's not big enough.
But there's different ways you can do a roundabout, so there's areas, and I think I saw this actually in Aspen, they just paint a roundabout, and they put
Guards.
guards
little
around them
things.
just to start out, so if there's no snow on the ground, you get it, it's a roundabout, there's a circle and everything else, it's a roundabout.
I mean, I
Well,
think,
is
Not
this-
until you build the motel.
Right.
Is there gonna be a lot of traffic coming
Right.
off on the north, people coming from the north. That's when they're gonna utilize that exit more than ever, is when that happens.
The exit is used kind of a lot, cause.
It is,
It is used a
but
lot.
it's gonna be used more. When
Yeah.
you build
But
a
I do
motel
think
there.
Main Street is, people coming this way go all the way to Main Street and then get off, rather than that one right
I
there.
do too.
But if we could have a sign, a pretty good sign that says Colorado Welcome Center, and point that way,
Straight to Nevada,
straight to, well,
it's gonna be to Nevada and down.
Well,
Nevada and down, but.
That's confusing when you're coming
Yeah,
southbound.
it's
People
hard.
don't know what to do.
Because where do you go from Nevada? Go straight up all the way up to Nevada? That's not gonna work.
No.
You know, you gotta have, if anything, go down Arizona, because then they make the turn and you could see
Well, see, the
McDonald's
bad
from
thing
there.
about Arizona is you're caught up in that
Maze.
maze right
Yeah.
there where you're better off going to Nevada.
I mean, I really think that we're just missing the mark. I mean, we're getting a ton of people coming off the highway by Sonic. I mean,
Yes,
if
and
you
I
get
do
all day long,
agree.
And
I mean, our biggest
and
money
maybe we need
a
to
sign.
look at.
Put a good sign
Sign.
right there by,
We need
and
to
filter
look
them
at.
in.
But isn't there a little sign, I hate to say this, by Sonic that says Colorado Welcome Center? Are you guys sure?
You know what, there
I think
used
so.
to be, but they had a sign cleanup thing, and I don't know if it still sits there or not, cause there was so much different signage.
You know, because I thought I used to say the Colorado Welcome Center, but maybe we could get a little thing on the corner, have the billboard say that, and then right on the corner of Sonic.
Well, we're gonna have to
Welcome
have,
Center.
we're
Yeah,
gonna have
but
to
you
have.
wanna
a-
capture them off the highway.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
So that billboard's the cell.
So the billboard is the cell, but then once they get off and they're at that Sonic corner, there
Yeah,
has to
we
be a
need
sign
something.
to show where the welcome
Yeah,
center.
But I
there's
think
no-
the cell is actually the marijuana coming off already. I really think that they're already there, they're already here. I mean, that intersection is crazy, I drive by all the time.
Oh,
It
it's-
is crazy,
it
it drives
is
me crazy to
crazy.
go that
It
way.
is.
They're already here, I think we need a signage coming already, that's already off the highway.
I-
To point them out, cause they're already right there, they're getting their marijuana, they're getting their Sonic, getting gas, and then going right back out. We just gotta track them back further down.
Well, what we notice on our end, Joey, is a lot of people will park
And then start walking.
clear down on the west end and then they walk.
Mhm.
And we see them coming and going, same people. But it doesn't seem, I do know, and I hear people say all the time, if you're coming in with an RV or even a motorhome, they do not want to go down Commercial, which to La
Okay.
Puerta's, point of the Welcome Center, if you're coming off, yeah, you gotta go there. But if you're coming in on Main,
You
you
can't
don't
turn left.
wanna go down there. That's a problem. Commercial is a death trap. So, I mean, all of these things are not our problem. We're not the Department of Transportation, we're not city engineers, but we do have control over what we could put on the interstate as far as signage.
So we'll have them do the signage,
For the walk.
for the welcome center, but when they get up at that corner of Sonic, we're gonna have to get the city to approve some sort of signage to go towards the welcome center right at that corner, if it doesn't sit there, but you know, I get on and off commercial and Main Street all the time because going to the hotel, you know, and, I don't remember seeing that welcome center
I thought I
sign
used to
anymore.
see one.
You're right, we
You
used to.
know, and was it there because, you know, that part is still belongs to the state, and so does coming on Nevada belong to the state, that's all part of it, and did they ask for that to be removed?
I don't know.
So, I just think like on the billboard, we should just put the welcome center like, you know.
Well, so, in the back of our minds, we best be thinking about the what ifs.
The what ifs, because technology is one of the big what ifs.
Well, I
Well,
think these are questions
we-
that we all have for the mayor and for
In
the
that
city
meeting,
manager.
because
in that
we
meeting.
need that, because as of our funding with the city
Do we-
runs out, and so
Right.
we will come up with our budget in September, and in that budget, we're gonna have to come in front of the city and say, in our budget, are you guys gonna give us an extra $60,000 this year to run the welcome center? Cause that's gonna have to be part of our budget, cause if we have to take $60,000 or $70,000 out of our budget, remember minimum wage is going up again this year.
Well, what about if they keep it, we rent from them for a fee of, what, $2,000 a month, okay?
Okay.
They have to maintain it, they have to pay the utilities, or there is some type of an agreement with utilities. They are our landlord, we rent from them. Now, we may not be the only people in there, but it isn't $60,000 that we have to worry about.
I think
Well,
we just
the-
need to stick with the thing of them, of
It's 'cause we're-
adamantly that they take the 50,000, we take the 17.
Well, that's if-
That's
that's
the
the
road.
if.
If not, then we need to look at,
But
is it feasible for
the
the city of
biggest
Trinidad?
portion of that is the funding of Marty and her assistant, that's,
She's a city employee.
yeah, so that's the biggest function, the biggest part of ours. And we can't afford that because, you know, look at what we've done with grants, and this is one of the best sort of grant rounds that we've had. Although you guys might not see that way, we haven't spent that much in grants, and it's really the way it should be, very, very many years. And that's because it was recommended to us when Andrew went through that whole portfolio of how a tourism board of our size is supposed to operate with money. And if we take that, we would have no money to help any grants locally.
That's true.
And then I hate to say it, and then you go back to the actual funding of the tourism
Uh-huh.
board. Does it say that, does that actual thing say, do we pay
Uh-huh.
for someone's wages?
Right,
Which it's
that's,
not.
and that's the
And
point.
that's, and so see,
So,
but my thing is we continue the path that we're going, and there's enough marijuana money to be part of a promotion for Trinidad. And I
Well,
think that's where we stick.
That's the assumptive close that we want to
Right.
use, but we still need in the back of our minds,
Well,
Number
we
2.
have it.
so
We
let's,
have it. Is it feasible for the city of Trinidad to continue, since the state sees that the volume of
Mhm.
visitors is down? Is this the path we go down now? Is this the path that we open our eyes to that it's not working?
and then what?
We just close the file.
so let's write all our questions down so that we're prepared to ask them. And we'll have them at the.
But I think if
It's
we
a
were
special
all,
work session.
but I think if we were
Yeah,
all,
let's do a special work session.
but I think if we were all kept in tune with all of this, we would know where we're at today.
Yes.
But, you know, having a discussion like this for the length of time that we're having on this subject is, you know, we're just blowing in the wind because we really don't know any facts
Right.
at all.
Right.
With all parties that are involved in this.
We should have been involved because it is
Right,
us.
'cause it
and,
is us.
That's what's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get them to the table. There's something else I just did this morning, and I want you guys to see it. I went down and talked to Cheryl this morning early.
That's another thing that bugs
I wanted to have a copy of our budget, but if you go and you download, which I do, the Airbnb app locally, there are enough rooms in Trinidad to equal a whole nother hotel, and leaving on the table somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 in tourism tax that could be used
Amazing.
for events in town. And so she said that the city of Trinidad is working on an ordinance for those, but I say, and I wanted her to hear it from me before I told you, and before I tell the mayor and city council, is that's two separate things, difference to me. One is that they need to come up with an ordinance on how they operate and what standards are for it. The other side is it doesn't matter what they do. The ordinance that was passed says if you rent a room, lodging, RV site less than X amount of days, you must collect tourism tax and send it to the city of Trinidad. So you can come up, the city can come up with whatever they want, specs on making sure that they have fire extinguishers or anything else. But right now, everybody that's not collecting tourism tax is out of compliance, and I feel like the city of Trinidad should go, you can find it easily online, and send everybody notices saying you must collect tourism tax. Cheryl said one person has gotten a hold of her and said that Airbnb will actually put it on their app if it's sent to them. So I'm moving forward trying to make sure that people know there's two separate reasons here. One is whatever ordinance you want to do to make sure that your commercial residences have fire extinguishers, but that's separate. The ordinance is already in place saying if you rent a room, you have to turn in your tourism tax. And I'm really wanting them to start sending letters to all these, and they can find it easily online.
Oh, I was gonna say, how are they going to?
Yeah, you can, so, I mean, you guys will be,
Well, isn't there a form you fill out that you do have one with the city?
No, they're just doing
Should there
it.
be?
see, look at 420, look at, LA Grill, look at, see this house, everybody's seeing this house in Trinidad. There's tons of houses, I'm seeing them all, these houses, there's houses you would never think
And
that
it's
are houses,
just
and they're
a
going
room.
on, and they're just a room and some houses.
And they
all
don't need
these-
anything from the city to open this up.
And
No.
and so that's a different thing in my point.
Yeah,
Right. That's an ordinance with the city, however,
that's
the
nothing
law
to do
is
with it.
already in place that if you rent it.
But Si, if they are engaged in a commercial enterprise, they must have a business license.
Yeah, right, and so that's all that the city has to work with all them on all that. And that's the city has to work with it, but they should still be paying it already, I don't
Right.
wanna
Yeah.
wait to start collecting it.
It should have been started, when the ordinance started, that's when it should have
Yeah,
started.
so-
It should have been part of the motel.
Well, they didn't have Airbnbs back then.
Yeah, so
When they
anyway,
did
Still,
the
it
original
should-
ordinance.
But still, there should have been a
Yes.
thing that if you do, this
It's
is,
kind
this
of
is the
one of those
form.
things that they're just now recognizing.
right, but, and so I've been told that the city is working to try to get ordinances and business licenses, and that doesn't matter to me, that's the city thing.
Right,
The law still states that if you rent a room less than so many days,
Right.
you should be paying your tourism tax.
right.
Did we skip number 2, the review of an RFP
For the trolley video.
Oh.
We
I
skipped
saw
one.
that yesterday.
But I think we would do like the one that we talked about, Joe, when we went on it, we talked about doing one with no voice on it.
Didn't she
Just-
send us a
just
copy
slides, you
of-
can
Yes,
see
she
it.
did, it
Yes.
was an email yesterday.
Yeah.
Cause really, if you have a
Let's
good
look at
driver, the driver should be informing.
Right.
They
But
don't
just-
want no
just-
voice, you know.
Just a slideshow, and then we do one voice activated for the welcome center, when the trolley's not running, because the trolley only runs.
Yeah, cause you wanna enjoy the ride, you don't wanna be annoyed by
I agree.
the voice.
Is,
I probably am
Marty
the only one that thought this, but I think as cordial and everything as our driver was, I felt that some of the personal input could have been eliminated. That was just my opinion.
So
and you're gonna get that with different drivers.
Right.
You know, she's probably the most colorful one of the 3, you know, so, and she's more outgoing. And
I think that's anywhere though, I mean, you can probably volunteer at the welcome center.
and actually,
It's anywhere, that's anywhere.
we got this review of RFP for the trolley video, and I can go through this, but I don't really think this is our place. I think Les is the one that should look at this.
Is this a template?
Yeah, it's a template of some sort. I mean, I wouldn't know what was legal and what isn't legal to put in this RFP. It should really go to the city attorney.
I just
I didn't
assumed
see
that she
that.
got it from Audra.
So I'll ask her if this has went through Les.
I didn't get that one, I guess.
I got it, but I can't find it right now.
No,
It's
see, the
under
one I
this.
got is the cardio.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
tabbed
under
at the
that?
bottom.
The only
Okay.
thing that I would like to see if we could change with a proposal period of 90 days. I'd like it to be shorter if possible.
How much shorter?
Well,
No, really.
Is it for this season?
30,
You want it
yeah.
for this season?
30 days?
I'd like to see what we could get in 30
Shorter,
days.
so 30 days, and it hasn't been reviewed by the city attorney.
So are we going to have, Chronicle at the next meeting? If they
Yes,
can come?
yeah.
Yeah, I really wish you guys could see it. It's, so many questions, could be answered for us when we're comparing Studio 6 KRDO to what they could possibly do for us locally. It's more hands-on.
No, it's great.
Easier to get a hold of them. They're local. you know.
Well, and
I
they
mean,
really had a huge marketing firm in Dallas or in Texas when they lived in Texas. They, I mean, you know, and the marketing, with them doing movies and everything else.
Yeah.
The
Plus,
contracts.
interestingly, they had some great ideas for holiday events that they would be willing to take on as part of an entertainment district.
It's nice.
Yeah, they were very, very, informative.
Nice. Nice. Okay, does it, when's a good time for us to get together?
Let's do this. I've been thinking about how to do this graph. You do one, I'll do one, and then we'll get together.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, after the meeting, I'll share my ideas,
Okay.
and you share your ideas, and then we'll do it, put it in a draft.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? No? So the next meeting is scheduled for?
Like the 9th or something.
Oh, yeah, July 9th. Okay, guys, things a bunch. Meeting's over.
Motion to adjourn.
So the next meeting, we're gonna have Sun and.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, we're gonna have the Chronicle News and Greg and Sun, all of them?
Yeah. We can do the mayor and Greg. I would suggest we do the mayor and Greg before so the meeting starts out and we get our answers from
Yeah.
there.
We can ask, or we could make our presentation, about our concerns.
Would you
and
go to
then
Denver?
Yeah.
give them time to respond and come back to us.
Oh. We did ours last Friday.
So everybody write questions that you have for this whole.
Water.
Okey dokey.
Yeah.